to lean towards the mic a little more.
Okay. And the microphone is in the camera, correct?
It should be, yes.
Okay, so I'm. Okay, how does this sound? Is that a little better?
It sounds about the same. Can you hear Cecilia okay? I'm asking Kate. Okay, Kate can hear you fine, so it should be fine.
Okay, great. I'll also raise my microphone volume if that helps.
Oh, that definitely helps. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Hi, David. Can you hear me? I think you're on mute if you're.
David, unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay, I think we're ready to get started. Hello, I would like to call the Zoning Administrator meeting of the City of San Clemente to order. My name is Cecilia Gallardo Daly. I'm the Zoning Administrator for the City of San Clemente. The first item of business on the Zoning Administrator agenda is to receive and file the minutes of the Zoning Administrator meeting of July 23rd, 2020. I have reviewed those minutes, so those minutes are received and filed. The next item on the agenda is oral and written communication. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the zoning administrator on any item within the jurisdiction of the zoning administrator that is not on the zoning administrator agenda. Do we have any oral and written communications? No, seeing none. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, and that's public hearings. This is the public hearing will include a staff presentation, a presentation by the applicant, and public testimony. Following closure of the public hearing, the zoning administrator will respond to questions raised during the hearing, discuss the issues, and act upon the matter by motion. As we move into the public hearing items, I just want to make everyone aware that item 4A, it is the 3551 Camino Miracosta Suite Q minor conditional use permit item is being continued. That item is being continued to the regularly scheduled zoning administrator meeting of October 8, 2020. So I wanted to make the public aware of that in case anyone was tuning into this meeting for a zoning administrator action on that minor conditional use permit. That item will not be taken up today. Okay, so we will move to the first public hearing on the agenda, and that is the minor exception permit for 1107 South Ola Vista. And our staff planner, David Correa, will be providing us with a staff report. Thank you, David.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So yeah, as mentioned, the project is a request for a minor exception permit. Location is addressed 1107 South Ola Vista. This is a 4,400 square foot lot and not 5,300 as stated in the staff report. So I just wanted to make that quick clarification. As far as zoning, it is in the residential low zone and coastal zone overlay district. It's also within the coastal exclusion area, which in this case, it means that if the single family home is being replaced by another single family home, no coastal review would be required. The lot is surrounded by single family homes as well, west of the 5 freeway. Quick background, the lot is currently vacant. There was a demo permit issued recently to go ahead and demo a single story home. So the next step for the homeowner is to complete the building permit application process for a new 2-story residence at 2,828 square feet. So that is also pending approval of this request we have today. Before I get into the more into the request here before us, I do want to explain what the code allows and requires. So per zoning ordinance section 17.16.090, that allows homeowners to request a 15% reduction of the required front yard and a 20% reduction of the required side yard. Now, to go through this requires approval of a minor exception permit by the zoning administrator. And to be able to support this, we have specific findings that must be met as noted in the staff report and the resolution. So moving forward, the request here from the homeowner is to reduce the front yard setback from 20 feet to 17 feet. This is along the South Ola Vista side of the lot. And then also they're proposing to reduce the street side yard setback from 10 feet to 8 feet. And this is along the Paseo de Cristobal side. So again, this is to accommodate a new 2-story residence with a 2-car garage. So in reviewing this, staff did find that the residential use of the lot will continue as intended by the residential low zone. And the exception does not significantly alter the neighborhood's street scene. The property is subject to all development standards of the zone as neighboring properties in the same zone as well, with the exception of the reduced front and street side yard setbacks. Did find also that the setback reductions do not restrict property owners from providing it does not restrict the property owners from providing the 2 parking spaces on site as required by code. We do find that providing on-site parking spaces helps reduce on-street parking congestion in the neighborhood. So in approving this reduction, we're still able to, the homeowner is still able to provide the required amount of parking, which is 2 spaces. We also found that the request does not preclude neighboring properties from being used as intended as the zone, and we did find that the exception maintains the general neighborhood character and street appeal, since the property is subject to landscape requirements that maintain a buffer between the public right-of-way and the primary structure. In addition to that, the project is subject to requirements of the California Building Code and the Orange County Fire Authority, which is part of the process they're going through now. And this was reviewed by the development management team, which includes the building division, engineering division, and code enforcement. So for these reasons, staff supports the request for the minor exception permit. And I do want to note, I did send you, Cecilia, an errata sheet to include coastal land use policies. Cecilia, did you receive that one?
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Okay, and then also to include a condition, let me read that here. So the new condition 4.15 reads, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant or designee shall revise plans to show the southern building corner across the front lot line at 17 feet from the front property line. Just quick background, we did find that there was a corner that was not at the 17 feet, which is a reduced front yard setback. So a way to address this is to have the applicants fix and revise the plans prior to the issuance of a building permit. We also did receive public comments, and I'm not sure if it's appropriate to read them out loud now or during the public comment. Cecilia?
Yes, we can read those during the public comment period when I open up the public hearing. So we'll hold off on that.
Alrighty, so this concludes my presentation, and we do have the applicant on the call as well for any questions.
Okay, thank you, David, for that staff report. Before we open up the public hearing, I do have a few follow-up questions here. Let's see, let me get to my question list. So David, you mentioned this in your presentation. When I was reviewing the plans, I noticed that the 17-foot front yard setback that was proposed didn't seem to be plotted across the entire length of the front yard at 17 feet. It showed 17 feet at its widest point, but not at the narrowest point of the front yard. That will be corrected through a condition of approval, and I understand the applicant is already working with you on a revised exhibit that shows what would be, or what is being requested as a development footprint within a 17-foot front yard setback.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. David, what is the lot size minimum in this zone?
It is 6,000 square feet.
Okay, and this lot is approximately 4,400 square feet. Mm-hmm. My understanding is that it was a lot that was created prior to the minimum lot standard requirements. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then is the project in compliance with the lot coverage of the zone? And could you explain that a little bit for me, please?
Yes, it is. So, quick answer, it does meet the lot coverage maximum standard, which is 50%. That standard varies through lot through lot. In this case, we do see that the lot is 4,400 square feet, which, it's been pointed out that this is a pretty small lot in the neighborhood. So we do, in terms of limiting the building footprints, it's going to vary from, again, lot to lot. So in this case, the proposed building footprint here with the new home is about 1,900. So that, the way we calculate that is by dividing that by the lot size, which is 4,400 approximately, and that gives us a percentage of 43%. So it is still in compliance with the minimum lot coverage, the maximum lot coverage standard.
Okay, got it. Thank you. All right, if you could just walk me through the setback requirements for this particular property. because it is a corner lot, it almost appears to have two front yards, but that's not how we calculate setbacks for these types of corner lots. So could you tell me about how we came to determine what is the front yard setback and what is the side yard setback for the corner lot?
Yeah, good question. We did look at definitions of lot lines to help us with this determination. So for the definition of a front lot line, it basically says that the front lot line should be the one that's the most narrowest fronting a street of that lot. So in this case, to break these lot lines, we used the northwest point and took that to the center of the radius to determine the front lot line. And then the remaining portion from the center of the radius going east towards the back of the property would be the side lot line. So now the front, the required is 20 feet, which is, there's a request to reduce that to 17 feet. And then the street side is by code 10 feet, which is again requested to be reduced to 8 feet.
Okay, great, thank you. Now, the project proposes reductions in that front yard setback and side yard setback, 17 feet from 20 and then 8 feet from the required 10. Are there any visibility issues with the reduced setback? Is the visibility triangle for the intersection being maintained?
We did. So part of this process was to submit this to the development management team, where they did review this, and it was specifically done by the engineering division, and they did not raise any issues or concerns with this new development and line of sight issues.
Okay, great, thank you. And I guess my last question has to do with minor exception permits in general. Are there any other minor exception permits that have been approved in the vicinity or in this neighborhood?
There are, and I did some preliminary research. We do have some. I had to stop at one point taking note of these, but we do have one at 107 Paseo de Cristobal, 122 Paseo de Cristobal, 130, and then 218 Paseo de Cristobal. And these are all approvals to encroach into required setbacks.
Okay, great. Thank you for that information, David. All right, I am going to now ask the applicant to make a presentation or make any remarks that they would like to regarding the project. So I'm going to open it up to the applicant. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Yes, my name is Rob Williams. I'm with Studio 6 Architects. I represent the Sheehans, the applicant, and the owner of the property. David's done a great job. We've reviewed the conditions prior to today, and we have no problem with any of the conditions. We also don't have any problem with the new condition, as stated, that we will work with David and staff on fine-tuning that one area that was encroached. We have been working with David on that, and we have a solution. He has that in front of him, but our goal is, as we move forward, to fine-tune that with staff as we go along prior to building permit. Real quick, though, if you don't mind, regarding the corner view, you probably see in the staff report, I think it's item number 2, it shows the outline of the original home, how it sat on the property. I think it's kind of in red or orange color. And you can see, the one corner, especially at the corner of Crystal Ball and Ola Vista, that house really protruded in that corner quite a bit. If you notice, we're not going out any further than the house originally was on Crystal Ball, but we have cut it back significantly on that corner to, even with the reduction of the front yard setback, that corner is opened up a lot more than the original home, as well as the house used to sit significantly into the rear setback, the existing house did. we have pulled that back to the regulations of code, which is requires a 10-foot setback. Other than that, that's pretty much it for my presentation. Any questions you have, just let me know, and I'll put myself on mute.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I appreciate that. Okay, David, why don't you go ahead and read? I'm going to open up the public hearing, and David, why don't you go ahead and read the public comments that we have received on this project? Thank you.
Okay, will do. And Cecilia, do you want to, is there a time limit here? Hello, Cecilia, is there a time limit here for the public comments?
Yes, it's 3 minutes. So as soon as you start, I will track the time.
Okay. Got those. Okay, so the first one is from Phil Cadenhead. Mr. Carrillo, my name is Philip Cadenhead, and I own the property at 130 West Paseo de Cristobal. My wife and I have several concerns about the request to reduce the amount of setback for the new construction at 1107 South Ola Vista. We have resided in our house for 35 years and have seen the neighborhood make many home improvements, as the original homes were older, small beach cottages. Many of the homes that were rebuilt were much larger than other homes in the neighborhood, but still blend in because they have the same setbacks front and side as the other homes in the area, plus most of them are not corner lot properties. We are afraid that the Sheehan residence will be overwhelming, being only 8 feet from the sidewalk. The previous home there was 10 feet from the sidewalk, but did not look overwhelming because it was 1 story and not 2-story like the Sheehan residence will be. We believe that the home would not have a uniform appearance in the neighborhood, as most of the corner lots along Ola Vista are single-story homes. I also have concerns that you were unable to find approval for lots similar to the project lot to have similar setback exceptions. Like Mr. Kirk Andrews, I think that this would set a precedent of future home builders wanting to reduce setback requirements for new construction, thus changing completely the uniformity look of the neighborhood. My last concern was the fact your minor exception report listed the incorrect square footage of the property as 5,300 square feet and not the 4,416 square feet that it actually is. Although it is still below the 50% property coverage, it is much more than it would have been originally when you were working with 5,300 square feet. Thank you. Philip Cadenhead. Here's a next one from Kirk Andrews. The staff report for this agenda item at the September 17, 2020 zoning administrator meeting documents a material error in the lot size of this property. The report in error documents 5,300 square feet rather than the confirmed 4,400 square feet for this lot. This represents an additional 900 square feet, or a 20% increase in the size of the lot over what it actually is, 5,300 square feet versus 4,400 square feet. This was confirmed with the project architect when questioned, and he assured that he would be resubmitting the plans. This was corrected in the staff report attachment 14, but was not corrected in the staff report. This lot, therefore, is probably the smallest lot in this entire city zone, and he refers to pictures provided 2 and number 5. Therefore, the setback exception request of 5 total feet is proportionately and relatively huge on this small of a lot. These setback exceptions to code add roughly 2 feet times 60 feet plus 3 feet times 35 feet, which equal an additional 225 square feet to the building footprint of 1,909 square feet, representing a 13.3% increase over what the code setbacks would allow, and an additional 450 square feet of living space for a 2,828 square foot home, representing 19% additional living space over what code setbacks would allow. We would be surprised if this magnitude of exception has ever received zoning approval in this zone in the past. Most minor setback exception requests we reviewed or were referred to were fairly minor side yard setbacks on existing non-conforming buildings. This material setback request approval would set a very impactful precedent that every new construction project from here forward in this zone would want to take advantage of. And how could they be refused, since the proportional magnitude and impact of any similar request for new projects would be very much less than the much larger impact being applied to this project on the smallest lot in the zone. This is a slippery slope and negates the whole purpose of having city building code setback requirements in the first place. Overall, this building, if requested setbacks are approved, will overwhelm the lot and materially impact the neighborhood integrity, look, and feel. This would allow a 3,735 square foot structure per the plans on a 4,416 square foot lot, representing an 85% ratio of structure to lot size on a very visible corner of the neighborhood. In addition, the extra 2 feet along Cristobal will not line up with other homes on the block and would visually protrude out from homes on the street, which have all met their 20-foot setback requirements, not the 8 feet setback that this project is requesting. Let's see. Nope. Lost my place here.
David, the 3 minutes are up.
Okay.
Is there more to that public comment letter?
There is. There's about like 2 more paragraphs.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and finish reading it?
Okay. One other sentence in the report also is concerning the project maintains, quote, the project maintains a 1-story design of the existing residence located in a neighborhood consisting of 1, 2, and 3-story residents, end quote. This project does not maintain the 1-story design of the existing residence. It is a 2-story plus a roof deck, and the neighborhood that I am aware of does not have any 3-story residences. On the contrary, a large majority of neighborhood residences along this side of Ola Vista are 1-story residences, with a minority of 2-story residences built on much larger lots, which also largely maintain required setbacks, certainly not 5 feet of reduced setbacks. Finally, at what point does a minor exception request turn into a major exception request? Wouldn't this request cross that line compared to all other approvals ever given in the zone? We and many neighbors who share these concerns are questioning the appearance of a structure this big on a very visible small corner lot in this neighborhood. Don't we all want to try to keep the quaint village atmosphere in Southwest San Clemente? It would be a shame to see our town become another Manhattan Beach. My wife and I grew up there, where small beach lots have now been impacted by huge overbuilt structures that have ruined the beach town atmosphere. We would respectfully request that the zoning commission, the administrator, deny this request and maintain code required setbacks on this lot. On a personal note, we own the home just behind the subject lot at 134 West Paseo de Cristobal. We understand that our privacy and views will be greatly impacted with 2nd-story windows looking into our bedroom and losing the purpose for the deck outside our bedroom. We totally understand that these issues are not protected in San Clemente. However, it would add insult to injury to allow an additional 2 feet of a full-story incursion into the lot sight line on the Cristobal side from what the code requires. This could add greatly to the claustrophobic feeling that these small setbacks would generate from a large 2-story structure, will negatively impact the sun and light we previously have enjoyed, and will have a generally negative visual impact on the whole neighborhood. Sincerely, Kirk and Janet Andrews. Let's see. Moving on to the next one. Okay, this one's from Kelly Earhart. Hello, Mr. Correa. We live at 108 West Paseo de Cristobal, and it has come to our attention that the Sheehan residence at the corner of our lot of our 100 block is requesting code exceptions for their proposed building plans. I would like to voice my concern that as homes in Southwest San Clemente are following a trend of remodeling to larger sizes, that allowing code exceptions in this case would set a precedent that other future remodels would possibly ask for as well. I believe it is in the best interest of the residents of our neighborhood and upholding of the Southwest character and charm for residential projects to adhere to the existing codes and guidelines. Please consider this, and I ask that in the case of the Sheehan residents that their building plans be held to existing codes without exception. Kind regards, Kelly and Adam Earhart. I think we have two more. This is from John Long. Mr. Carrillo, I live across the street from the subject property and have concerns with the proposed variance to the setbacks on both Ola Vista and Cristobal. 3 feet and 2 feet respectively is way too much. If we were talking about a foot to accommodate a design feature, that would be one thing, but what the owners are asking for is egregious. Aren't the setbacks in place to keep the aesthetic of our beach neighborhood? Allowing this type of exception is going to create a neighborhood crowded by houses that spill out onto the street. We don't want to be Corona Del Mar or Laguna. I am also concerned that this hearing merely seems to be a formality. We have been told that design is already approved and that this is simply to check a box. We have rules. Please do your job and enforce them. Exceptions should only be used for special circumstances, not when someone wants a bigger house. The owners knew the lot size and shape when they bought the property. The rules on the book should apply. Sincerely, John Long. This one's from Amy Long. Mr. Carrillo, I'm writing in regards to the setback allowance currently up for approval for the Sheehan residents. I live across the street from the project under review and have concerns, particularly in regards to safety. Because the owners do not intend to put up physical markings on the project site, it is difficult to assess the visual impact. We watch near-miss car accidents on daily, and my concern is how the physical structure will impede line of sight as cars move into and across traffic. I'm in full support of minor setback exceptions to allow for design features such as a bay window, but would like to understand an allowance of this scale. It seems to be much greater than comparable properties in the neighborhood. Thanks for your consideration of our concerns. Best, Amy Long. And I think we received one right before the meeting. Let me locate that.
I have that one, David, that I can read. So
Okay.
it'll spare you from having to track it down.
Mhm.
So this comment is from Catherine Stovall Dennis and Marvin Dennis. It says, my husband and I live at 112 West Paseo de Cristobal. We are adamantly against granting a variance for setbacks or height restrictions for this project. We have owned our house since 1980 and did an extensive remodel in 1990, doubling the size from 1,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. We happily conformed to all building codes, including extra scrutiny because we live next to an original Ole Hansen home. I was a member of the Architectural Review Board for the Community Design Commission prior to it being combined with the Planning Commission, and fully understand the importance of the unfortunate precedent set when a homeowner is allowed a variance. It is not fair to all the citizens who follow the restrictions doing their own remodels or new builds. The owner of the property and architect need to do their due diligence, research what is allowed and not within the building code, then get creative with those guidelines. Building codes do not just magically materialize. Many hours of research, public hearings, and staff time are spent developing a blueprint that best serves and protects all homeowners. They are there for good reason and need to be respected and upheld. Thank you for your consideration, Catherine Stovall Dennis and Marvin Dennis. Okay, I think that concludes all of the public comments that we have received for this public hearing. Okay. I have reviewed the staff report. I've visited the site. reviewed the plans very carefully and took into consideration all of the public comment that was received in advance of this hearing today. You know, in respect to some of the comments that we've received regarding the development standards that get applied and how they get applied, and some of the corrections to the staff report, I do want to say that the lot size for the record has been corrected. One of the concerns raised by the public is the lot coverage, concern that with the approximately 4,400 square foot lot, that with the additional encroachment into the setbacks, that the building footprint or square footage would be so large that it would exceed the development standards. But the lot coverage for this site is not being exceeded with the project proposed. The maximum lot coverage is 50% and the project proposes 43%. So I wanted to make sure that that clarification was on the record. Another issue raised was with respect to the intersection and the potential for reduced visibility. It was reviewed by staff and there are no visibility issues with the reduced setback. The visibility triangle for that intersection is still being maintained. The other comment that was raised had to do with this being precedent setting in terms of minor exception permits. There are other minor exception permits that have been approved in the neighborhood, and David gave us examples of 4 on Paseo de Cristobal, and I understand that there are a few others as well. I think one of the important things to note is, and Mr. Williams, the applicant, stated this in the presentation, in the staff report on page 2, there's an exhibit that shows the footprint of the previous residence in one color, red, and then the footprint of the proposed residence in black. And the proposed reduced and required setbacks are in dashed lines. And the image shows how the previous residence significantly encroached into the front and rear yards. You know, if the previous single-family home was still on the property, it might be better to visualize what the proposed encroachments might be. But you know, that property was demolished. You know, in looking at the encroachment and the issue of neighborhood compatibility, that certainly is an important consideration. The zoning ordinance, section 17.16.090, allows a decrease of not more than 15% of the required front yard and 20% of the required width of the side yard, with a minor exception permit if the findings can be met. And you know, this is a small lot. It is smaller than the minimum lot size for the zone, and minor exception permits of this type were intended for these lot conditions to allow reasonable development, but within limits. That's why there are maximum percentages allowed. I think it's important to note that you know, having taken into account all of the public comment and the concern about the 2-story structure overwhelming the corner and not being compatible with the neighborhood, I did look carefully at what of the proposed structure would be encroaching into the front yard setback and the side yard setback. What is encroaching or proposed to encroach in the front yard is not a solid building wall plane, but one portion of the lot on the northern part of the lot is a rounded element. That rounded element is only enclosed on the first floor. The second story has a deck with a roof. So there's some transparency there. It's not solid. And that front elevation has a lot of movement in the building wall plane. The southern elevation, where the 2-foot encroachment is proposed, presents a lot of movement in the building wall plane as well, in the form of an entry and pop-outs rather than a blank elevation. And this variation in architectural treatment and building footprint helps to break up the building's appearance from the right-of-way, both along Ola Vista and Paseo de Cristobal. I think that the applicants worked as best they can, given the small lot size, to respect the previous building footprint, the corner lot location, and site and design a project that can fit within the neighborhood. With that, I am able to make the findings for the minor exception permit. With respect to the first finding, that the requested minor exception will not interfere with the purpose of the zone or the standards of the zone in which the property is located. The residential use of that corner lot will continue. It will continue to be single-family residential. The property complies with all development standards of the residential low zone, with the exception of the reduced front and side yard setbacks. The neighboring properties will not be adversely affected as a result of the approval or conditional approval of the minor exception permit. The proposed project's 2-story design is in keeping with the design of other properties and similarly situated 2-story properties in the neighborhood, including the one directly next door on Paseo de Cristobal. The setback reductions allow on-site parking to be provided, which helps reduce on-street parking congestion in the neighborhood. The exception also maintains neighborhood compatibility and street appeal, since the property is subject to landscape requirements that will maintain a buffer between the public right-of-way and the primary structure, consistent with neighboring properties. I also want to point out that the property directly to the south across Paseo de Cristobal also has a reduced setback that looks to be less than 10 feet from the Paseo de Cristobal right-of-way, although it might not be as apparent because it is a single-story structure and is further set back from Ola Vista. And then the final condition, that the approval of the minor exception permit will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the general public. The property is going to be required to meet all of the California Building Code and Orange County Fire Authority regulations. I also want to point out that, with respect to condition B and A, in terms of compliance with the zoning and no adverse impacts to the neighborhood, the new 2-car garage will be accessed from the existing street side driveway. So the front yard character of the subject block along South Ola Vista, which consists of front yards without street-facing garages, being the dominant feature, will still be maintained. So with that, I will determine that the project is categorically exempt from the requirements of CEQA pursuant to CEQA Guidelines Section 15305. And this is under Class 5, minor alterations in land use limitations. And I approve Resolution ZA 20-023, approving minor exception permit 20-120, the Sheehan residence, subject to conditions of approval. And I do have some additional findings related to the land use plan that I will read into the record, as well as a condition of approval to ensure that the 17-foot reduced front setback that's proposed along the property line, the front property, is maintained throughout that front yard setback. So with respect to the land use plan, this would be finding A1. The project is consistent with Coastal Land Use Policy LU-3, which states, maintain elements of residential streets that unify and enhance the character of neighborhoods, including parkways, street trees, and compatible setbacks. And with respect to the finding, that was finding number A1. Number 8, that was a supplement to A1. A supplement to A2 is the proposed architecture improves articulation on street-facing building elevations through the use of varied roof heights between building elements and exterior finishes and materials. The proposed garage is visually secondary to the rest of the home due to its location and front entry angle. Additionally, the proposed landscaping along the street-facing sides of the lot enhances the street appeal, consistent with Coastal Land Use Plan Policy LU-5, which states, required that single-family houses and sites be designed to convey a high level of architectural and landscape quality in consideration of the following: varied and distinct building elevations, facades, and masses, avoiding undifferentiated box-like structures, use of landscaping to complement the architectural designs of structures, and location and design of garages so that they do not dominate the appearance of the dwelling from the street. So that will be added to the findings of approval for the minor exception permit. And the following condition will be added to the conditions of approval for this resolution. Condition 4.15 will read, prior to the issuance of a building permit, the applicant or designee shall revise plans to show the southern building corner across the front lot line at 17 feet from the front property line. Okay. And with that, the minor exception permit for the Sheehan residence is approved. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda. New business. Seeing none, we'll move to the next item, old business. Seeing none, I will adjourn this meeting to the next regular meeting of the zoning administrator, to be held on Tuesday, October 8, 2020 at 3 p.m. via teleconference. Thank you.
Thank you, Cecilia.
Thanks.